If you were born between the dates on this chart, there's a really good chance you've heard of the game Castle Crashers. In the beginning of the game, all of the knights are in the barracks having a really good time, until one of the knights is thrown through the door dead. The knights go to investigate. As we enter the door, we see that all of the other gray knights have been killed, and there's this evil wizard stealing this crystal from the king. The evil wizard turns the crystal red and flies away. The king then orders us to go and protect the kingdom and retrieve his crystal. Along the way, we notice the king's 4 daughters are being kidnapped, so we go to rescue them. Recently, it was released that in an interview with the creator of the game, the giant crystal that is being stolen is used to turn Grey Knights into the Special Knights. That's why we're playing as the Grey Knight, so that we can finally get upgraded to a Special Knight by the King. After upgrading our knight, we head on to the blacksmith. There, we can pick up new weapons, but we also grab a compass. After that, we jump right back into the Barbarian War, and we fight our way through. We eventually reach this weird machine that throws bombs at us. The machine is run by barbarians who try to charge us and shoot us with projectile bombs. Luckily, the machine is not too hard to defeat. After the war machine has been defeated, we charge right back into the war. At this point, we are getting closer and closer to the barbarian camp. Soon we reach the gate that is guarding the barbarian camp. After defeating the men on guard, we have just one barricade before we reach the camp. When we enter through the gate that leads to the barbarian camp, we see the large barbarian from earlier who stole one of the princesses. We also see the princesses tied up. But then, the door behind the barbarian crushes him, releasing the barbarian boss. Despite the boss's size, he's not too difficult to defeat. However, during the fight, a bunch of hooded thieves steal 3 of the 4 princesses. We soon defeat the barbarian boss and rescue the one princess who was left behind. Afterwards, we visit the dock and try to set sail. However, they require 3 relics to set sail, and we only have 1, the compass we found earlier. So we decide to go after the thieves that stole the princesses. After defeating a few thieves, we run into this weird-looking prince who is stealing one of the princesses. When he sees us, he immediately shits his pants and runs away. After quickly defeating a few more enemies, we reach the thieves' forest entrance. We continue to try and chase after the thieves who have stolen the princesses, but we lose them. Eventually we reach a mill where we discover these weird creatures who attack us. We discover that these creatures are trolls coming from this large mother troll who spawns them. Eventually, though, we kill her and all of her children. We then notice that all the wildlife in the woods are being disturbed by this weird thumping, so we follow them into the mill. Eventually, this large creature shows up and tries to attack us. The creature tries to chase us through the mill, so we hop on some deer and run away. Eventually, we lose the creature and we jump off this large landing. Luckily, we land in the river below. We notice the thieves from earlier stealing the princesses heading downstream, so we decide to follow them through the river. While rafting down the river, we notice a cannonball fired from behind us has hit a fish in front of us. We realize that the remaining Grey soldiers and the king have come with a warship to help us. However, a large catfish emerges from the water. We see that the catfish is being controlled by a polar bear. But with some help from the king and his men, we defeat the catfish and we press on. We soon land the warship and we can see the king and his men making preparations to take back his daughters. We decide to scout ahead and we run into these polar bears who are extremely hostile. They attack us, but we defeat them. We continue on until we find their leader. He is not very difficult and he is defeated. Eventually, we reach a very large hill that we climb up. This is where we finally find the thieves who stole the princesses. We could see them selling them to 2 mysterious figures. One flies away and the other walks into this cave. After defeating the thieves, we enter the cave to try and rescue the other princess. We make our way through the cave and eventually we are greeted by this large bat named Pipistrello. Pipistrello then tries to attack us. His attacks can do a lot of damage, but they are easily avoidable. We avoid all of his attacks and defeat him. After he is defeated, the king arrives with his men and we get our reward. Before going to save the princess, we discover the industrial castle where the prince from earlier is making fun of us because we cannot break through his door. After giving up, we go to save the other princess. After meeting back up with the king, we exit the cave and enter a flowery field. In the field, we end up being attacked by large bees. After defeating the bees and the beekeepers, we reach a very large cliff. When we reach the cliff, we use the catapult to launch ourselves onto the castle. Us and 5 other Grey Knights attack the castle. We defeat the enemy knights on guard, and eventually we reach a window and crash through. Unfortunately, our fellow Grey Knights have died in the crash. We can see the princess is being forced to marry this man against her will. He drags her away and leaves us to fight the guards. Eventually, we catch up to the man only known as the groom. He attacks us, and he eventually goes to his piano. His piano can fire bombs all around the room that we have to avoid. Eventually, after an intense fight, we defeat him. However, the man was apparently the Cyclops' best friend. The Cyclops was the mysterious figure we saw earlier. Enraged by our actions, he steals the princess and runs away with her. The Cyclops uses the carriage that was meant for the groom and the bride to escape. However, we use his piano to launch us onto the carriage. All throughout the parade, guards try to knock us off of the carriage, but we defeat them. However, the monster from the mill comes back. The monster is easily defeated. After he is defeated, we are knocked off the carriage by the top of a cave. We enter the cave to chase after them. After defeating the enemies in the cave, we wind up in a volcano. After making our way through the volcano terrain, we enter the Cyclops' fortress. The fortress has many enemies in it, but they are all defeated. Eventually, we reach the Cyclops. When the Cyclops notices us, he becomes enraged and attempts to kill us. The Cyclops attacks us with his 2 knives. After a while, when he can't kill us, he becomes even more enraged and gets quicker. However, this causes him to slip and fall in the lava. After giving us a Terminator reference, we cut down the princess and save her. After defeating the Cyclops, we decide to go to the nearby village called Lava World. When we enter, we realize that there are no villagers around, but we keep getting attacked by these fire demons. They could shoot fireballs and flames at us. After a while, we defeat them. Eventually, we reach a large gate similar to the door in the industrial castle that we cannot rip off. However, when we kill the fire demons that keep coming for us, they drop these sandwiches. Upon eating a sandwich, we become beefy. And when we're beefy, we can rip the door off. Upon entering Lava World, we are attacked again by fire demons. Eventually, we discover the village has been encased in lava, and all the villagers have perished. While wandering through the village, the evil wizard from earlier arrives, and he has a weird knight with him who can fly. The weird knight pays us a visit, and turns all of the encased villagers into skeletons. The knight then leaves us to fight the skeletons. After defeating the skeletons, we continue to move forward. We run into a couple more waves of fire demons before we eventually reach what caused this monstrosity. This large volcano atop a hill right next to the villagers come to life. The only way we can defeat the volcano is by eating one of the sandwiches to become beefy. In the beefy state, we could punch the volcano until it dies. At the end of the level, we spot one of the relics we need to cross the river. However, the relic is guarded by a sock puppet and a dragon. The dragon can shoot flames, and he will also summon a fire demon to fight you. After a while, we defeat the dragon, and the sock puppet retreats. We collect the second to last relic that we need to sail. However, at the same time, the evil wizard and his knight have reached the Cyclops that we've defeated. The knight resurrects the Cyclops. With our new sandwiches, we return back to the industrial castle. The prince shits his pants again and runs away. We enter the castle, and we must defeat his knights and get past his machines. His traps are difficult, but we get past them. Eventually, we reach an elevator. While we are going up the elevator, we are attacked by his knights. After we get off the elevator, we attack the few knights who are guarding the second floor. After we defeat them, we reach the industrial prince, who has a huge machine to fight us. His machine has very many contraptions that are very difficult to get past, but eventually we defeat each one. The industrial prince shits his pants one last time before trying to run away. The evil wizard appears and he gives the purple princess off to her. He tries to ride the crystal, but the evil wizard betrays him at the last minute. We decided not to spare him. We decide to use the telescope, the last relic we need, to look through. All the way across, we see the other princess that was stolen. With all the relics, we go back down to the dock and set sail. While we are at sea, we are being attacked by a different boat. When the boat gets closer, we notice that they are ninja pirates. The enemy pirates then board our boat. Once we defeat the pirates that have boarded our boat, the other boat sinks. Eventually, we land in a desert. After killing most of the wildlife of the desert, we eventually reach the spaceship. The spaceship has very little health, so eventually it is defeated. However, a very much larger spaceship appears and abducts us. Luckily, before the aliens put a probe up our ass, We escape. We then massacre all the aliens. Along our way to the exit, we accidentally release a prisoner, and he decides to thank us by blowing up the ship. Luckily, we get off just before it explodes. After landing in the desert and stealing some guy's camel, we make it to the sand castle. Inside the sand castle are a few waves of enemies, but they are easily defeated. Once we kill them, we go to the top floor. At the end of the top floor, we run into a volleyball game. We of course beat them the first time. After winning the volleyball game, they give us a map. We use this map to get out of the desert into the swamp area. We try to get through this gate, but we can't break through. After leaving the area with the gate, we go to the nearby village in the marsh. We see all the villagers are being tormented by these skeletons, so we decide to help. However, as we move forward, we run into the evil wizard and his knight, known as the Necromancer again. Our new friends run away, and the Necromancer leaves us a bunch of skeletons. The skeletons were very difficult, but we managed to defeat them. As we move forward, we notice that our friends have been killed by these weird knights. As we move even further, we run into the Troll Mother again. She does not have as much health as last time, but her children do not die at the same time as her. Eventually, more villagers show up to support me, and with their help, we defeat all the knights. The villagers then lead me through this corn patch to their problem. This large piece of corn has come to life and has been harassing the villagers. With some help from the villagers, we eventually defeat him. One of the villagers leaves and enters the shed. He comes back and gives us the horn that we need to open the gate. Once we enter through the gate, we must make our way through a sewer to get into the lair. After defeating the fishmen in the sewer, we move on to the lair. The lair is full of fishmen and the soldiers from the marsh that we had to fight earlier. Eventually, we reach Medusa. When Medusa notices us, she becomes enraged. She then chose to fight us. She has 2 attacks, one from her snake and one that turns us into stone. Eventually, though, we defeat her. We continue up the mountain on the map to the next level. We reach the level called Full Moon. Full Moon is a level that is completely guarded by soldiers in heavy armor who have a lot of health. This level is very difficult and takes a long time to complete. Eventually, we reach the top of the mountain, which leads us into the next level, Snow World. Snow World is full of the Ice King's soldiers who attack us. We then enter the Ice King's fortress. Eventually, we make our way to this large trench, where he and 3 of his soldiers are on the other side. The Ice King fires his magic while his soldiers fire arrows. Eventually, we get across and kill his soldiers. Finally, we enter the Ice King's lair to kill him. The Ice King has 3 attacks against us. 2 of them freeze us, which stuns us, and the other just spawns icicles that fall after us. The Ice King can take a long time to kill, but with a little help from our new pet, we kill him and rescue the princess. We then finally catch up to the evil wizard in the final level. We can see the evil wizard with 3 other figures. Just then, the island takes off into the sky, so the knights go after it. We avoid some rocks on the way up, and we land on the island. We enter, and after defeating a few enemies, we make it to these 4 portals. We enter into the first portal and see one of the figures from the island at the beginning. This guy is known as the Painter Boss. He does not fight you directly, he just summons paintings that fight you. The paintings will try to run into you and do a lot of damage. Eventually, the painter has taken too much damage and cannot paint anymore. He comes down and runs around while all of his paintings try to run into you. Eventually, we defeat him and he gives us a bunch of food. We exit his portal and enter the next. This is the portal of the undead Cyclops. The Cyclops, however, is much easier in this version than in his original state. So we enter the second to last portal where we fight the Necromancer. The Necromancer does not fight us directly at first. At first he spawns a bunch of minions to fight us for him. This is the hardest stage in the entire game. After I defeat the last minion, I get to fight the Necromancer. The Necromancer likes to block all of my attacks, but he does not do much damage. I have no trouble defeating him. I then enter the last portal. This is where we finally fight the evil wizard. The wizard fight takes place up in the sky. The first stage is just 4 crystals that spin and try to attack me. However, I easily defeat them. The second stage, the wizard finally comes down and has a shield on. This stage is easily defeated. The second stage is a healing stage for the wizard. However, we interrupt it. He floats in the sky, but we just attack him. The third stage, it appears that we've defeated him. But as soon as we open the chest, he appears to be a large spider. We then try to attack him as he spawns cult minions to attack us. However, the spider stage is not too difficult, so we defeat him. However, the fight is still not over. The final stage is, I guess, the hardest, but if you haven't noticed, I've said easily defeated quite a bit. The final stage, the wizard has a sword that can shoot fireballs and flames at us. The stage is certainly not easy, but it's still not extremely difficult. I actually find the necromancer fight harder. But regardless, we finally kill the evil wizard and restore peace to the realm. We catch a ride on the crystal that he stole originally and catch the princess. We then arrive back home at the barracks, having a really good time, just like at the beginning of the game. Just then, the king brings in his daughter, the last princess we saved. I try to talk to him about a raise to become one of the special knights, but he ignores me like a dick. At least I get to kiss his daughter. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I'm going to leave a link to the full adventure in the description below.